Late afternoon in a small town in the United States. The cold gym lights shone like spotlights on a spotless mat. In the corner, a black man in a navy blue uniform wrung out a rag, wiped away sweat, erased footprints. No one asked his name. No one noticed that his calloused hands carried marks that didn't come from mops. Laughter cut through the air. A young black belt, surrounded by applause, posed for photos. He was the hero of the place. The janitor was just a shadow. But God never abandons the righteous. Sometimes justice comes at the exact moment when the arrogant least expect it, and when it comes, it silences an entire room. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The red sign read Red Rock Martial Arts. Every afternoon, when the downtown shops closed, the gym became a stage. The soundtrack was always the same: kicks hitting pads, claps, and loud laughter. The air smelled of mat rubber and cheap disinfectant. The janitor pushed the mop like a man praying, in silence, with patience. His name was Marcus. Some didn't even bother to say it. Buddy? Hey man. Clean guy. It was as if his name had been swept away with the dust. Marcus, almost 50, came before everyone and left after everyone. He carried with him the habit of watching. He watched the students' posture, the weight in their steps, the way they held their breath before kicking. An observer always learns more than a talker. That week, the gym breathed pride. Tyler Brooks, the most celebrated black belt, had just returned from a state tournament with a shiny medal hanging on his chest. 26 years old with a smile that said the world existed to cheer for him. The sensei was traveling, so Tyler took charge of the class and the spotlight. Today the level is high, he said, leading the warm-up. Anyone who falls behind owes me 50 push-ups. Jokes came easy to Tyler. He owned the attention not only with skill but with arrogance. He loved pointing out mistakes loudly, exposing students for laughs. Some chuckled nervously, others out of convenience. The gym mirrored his behavior like glass. Marcus, with his mop and bucket, circled the mat's edges. When he passed, students pulled their legs back so their sneakers wouldn't get wet. No one said excuse me. A sports drink bottle rolled across the floor and stopped at his feet. Marcus picked it up, set it back on the bench. The owner didn't thank him. During break, Tyler leaned against the wall, bragging, "The referee almost gave me the point before I even landed the strike," he laughed. The guy froze when he saw my belt. That's respect. The young men around him nodded like signing a contract. Across the gym, a woman brought her grandson for the kids' class and, spotting Marcus, whispered, "Is the bathroom clean?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied kindly with a nod. The boy ran past, almost knocking over the bucket. Tyler raised his voice. "Careful, champ. If you slip, that mop won't save you." Laughter again. Marcus gave a polite half-smile, sliding the bucket out of the way. He went back to work. The rag glided as if it knew every scratch on the floor. But behind that calm was something no one noticed, a discipline carved long ago like a photograph hidden deep in a wallet. When class resumed, Tyler announced a resistance challenge. 2 by 2, whoever tired first was out. The gym buzzed with energy. Bodies hit the mat like drums. Sweat smeared the floor, and Marcus followed closely, wiping it away without interfering, like a silent conductor. Sometimes his eyes narrowed, not in judgment but in memory, as if he recognized a dance step he hadn't seen in years. By the end, Tyler wanted one last spectacle, something that would spark chatter online. That's when his gaze landed on Marcus, setting his mop against a pillar and adjusting his key ring. Guys, Tyler said loud enough to hush the whispers. "We've trained hard, but real training is testing the unexpected." Heads turned toward him. Then with a smirk he pointed, not at a student, not at a blue belt, not even at a brown belt, but at the man everyone pretended not to see. "What if we call Buddy over here for a little sparring?" He laughed. "Just for fun." Some laughed before they even understood. Others looked around, uncomfortable. The word fun spun in the air like a blade. Marcus didn't move. He stood still, hands resting on the mop handle, eyes steady. That calmness was something Tyler mistook for weakness. The glass door let in a draft of cold air. From the street, car lights sliced through the night. A little girl from the kids' class asked her mom innocently, "Mom, why does he want the cleaning man to play?" The mother didn't answer. Maybe because sometimes silence is the clearest way to say, "This is wrong." Tyler stepped to the center, the mat creaking beneath his feet. The improvised audience gathered around, phones ready, eyes hungry for the next viral video. Marcus quietly pushed the bucket aside out of the way like a man making room for something inevitable. The laughter grew louder. That was the gym's spirit. The shine of some blinded, the respect for all. On the digital wall clock, the minutes switched with a sharp beep. It sounded like a warning, like a countdown. "Hey, sir," Tyler called, waving impatiently. "Come over here." The gym held its breath. Marcus lifted his head, met the black belt's gaze, and for a split second something flickered where no one was looking. Not anger, but a quiet firmness, the kind carried only by those who've weathered too many storms to fear the wind. He took 2 steps forward. The mop stayed resting against the pillar like a story finally pulled from the shelf. And then, before another word could be spoken, there was the sharp click of a phone camera beginning to record. The night had chosen its witness. Because arrogance shouts, but truth doesn't need to raise its voice. The gym was buzzing. The sound of shoes squeaking on the mat, the nervous laughter, the whisper of phones unlocking. Everything mixed like an orchestra about to explode. Tyler stood tall in the center, arms crossed, a smirk pulling at his lips. He didn't just want a sparring match. He wanted a spectacle. "Come on, man," he said, his voice echoing. "Don't be shy. Everyone deserves their 15 seconds of fame." Students chuckled, some covering their mouths. Others aimed their phones at Marcus, screens glowing like hungry eyes. Marcus, still by the pillar, didn't move. His breathing was steady, shoulders relaxed. He wasn't embarrassed, but everyone assumed he was. "What's the matter?" Tyler pressed, stepping closer. "Don't tell me you're scared. It's just for fun." The words cut deeper than any kick. Just for fun. The crowd laughed louder, as if humiliation was entertainment. One of the younger students, eager to please Tyler, called out, "Yeah, let him try. Show him how a real fighter moves." The chant grew. "Try it, try it, try it." The voices overlapped, turning into a chorus of mockery. Even some parents watching from the bleachers pulled out their phones, curious. Marcus finally raised his eyes. For a brief second, his gaze passed through the crowd, calm, steady, unshaken. But instead of answering, he slowly picked up his mop and leaned it against the wall as if saying, "Fine, if this is what you want, let it be on your conscience." The silence lasted a heartbeat too long. Tyler, sensing his moment, raised his arms theatrically. "Ladies and gentlemen," he shouted, his voice dripping with arrogance, "tonight you're about to witness the debut of Marcus the Janitor." The gym erupted in laughter and clapping. Some stomped their feet, others whistled. Tyler bowed dramatically as if stepping into a professional fight. Marcus walked toward the center, not rushed, not ashamed. His steps were slow, deliberate, the steps of a man who carried no need to prove anything. And yet, with every step he took, the laughter seemed to falter, replaced by a strange anticipation. When he finally stood across from Tyler, the room quieted, just a little. The mop was no longer in his hands, but his presence carried the weight of something heavier than wood and rag. Tyler smirked again, whispering so only Marcus could hear. "Don't worry, I'll go easy on you. After all, you're just the cleaning guy." Marcus tilted his head slightly, his eyes calm, his voice low but firm. "Respect is not something you shout, son. It's something you live." For the first time that night, Tyler blinked. The words hit harder than any punch. But before he could reply, the crowd started chanting again, pushing him forward. The black belt raised his fists, full of confidence. Marcus didn't raise his hands yet. He simply stood tall, breathing deep, as if waiting for something greater than the crowd's approval. And then, the bell on the wall rang. Not for class, not for ceremony, just the hour changing. But to everyone there it sounded like the start of a fight. Phones lifted higher, gasps echoed. The spectacle had begun. But what no one knew was that this game would soon turn into a lesson none of them would ever forget. The atmosphere inside Red Rock Martial Arts shifted. What began as a joke was turning into an event. The sound of sneakers shuffling against the mat, whispers behind hands, and the constant clicking of phone cameras filled the gym. Tyler circled Marcus like a predator circling prey. His smile widened, feeding off the crowd's energy. "Okay, old man," he mocked, bouncing lightly on his toes. "Show us what you got. Don't be shy." The audience giggled. Some students began chanting again, "Do it, do it, do it." Marcus didn't respond. He stood with his arms at his sides, shoulders relaxed. The calmness unsettled some of the younger kids watching from the bleachers. They expected fear, maybe trembling hands. But Marcus looked like a man standing at a bus stop, composed, patient, waiting. One of the students whispered loud enough for others to hear, "This is going to be hilarious." "Tyler's about to wipe the floor with the janitor." Laughter broke out again. Phones tilted closer, capturing every second. Tyler smirked. He wanted this humiliation recorded, posted, shared. He wanted Marcus to be remembered as nothing more than a joke. "Tell you what," Tyler continued, raising his voice for everyone to hear. "If you can even touch me, just one clean touch, I'll mop the floor for a week. How about that?" The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "Deal, shake on it." But Marcus still didn't move. Instead, he spoke quietly, his voice carrying an unexpected authority. "A fight isn't entertainment. It's respect. You should know that." The room hushed for just a moment. His words didn't fit the script Tyler had prepared. Tyler chuckled, shaking his head, waving the words away like dust. "Respect?" he scoffed. "Respect is earned, not handed out. And trust me, you haven't earned any." The cruelty in his voice made a few people shift uncomfortably. But the crowd's hunger for spectacle drowned out hesitation. Phones stayed raised, ready for something to post with laughing emojis. Finally, Tyler clapped his hands together. "All right, enough talking. Let's give them a show." He raised his fists, stepping closer. His body language screamed confidence, wide stance, chest out, chin high. Marcus still hadn't raised his hands. He simply adjusted his footing, as if grounding himself like a tree digging roots deeper into the earth. The students leaned forward, eyes wide. This was no longer just a warm-up drill. This was humiliation wrapped as entertainment, a disguised challenge, one that Marcus never asked for, but one he would no longer be able to avoid. As Tyler bounced closer, a chant began again, louder this time. "Hit him! Hit him! Hit him!" The sound rattled the gym walls, echoing in Marcus's ears like drums of war. Tyler lunged forward with a playful jab, not meant to hurt, but to taunt. The crowd roared in anticipation. Marcus tilted his head slightly, dodging with ease, his expression unchanged. Gasps spread like wildfire. Some laughed nervously, others frowned. Tyler's smirk flickered, just for an instant. "Lucky," he muttered, circling again. "Let's see if you can do that twice." The challenge wasn't about fun anymore. The game had changed. Everyone in that gym was about to witness something they would never forget, and for the first time, Tyler himself felt it, the faintest shadow of doubt. The gym buzzed with restless energy. What had started as a joke was now a spectacle, and Tyler loved every second of it. His ego swelled with every cheer, every phone pointed his way. But Marcus stood quietly, hands lowered, body calm like a man who had nothing to prove. That silence unsettled some. Tyler stepped forward, waving his arms theatrically. "Come on, man, don't just stand there. Give them a show." Laughter followed. Someone from the crowd yelled, "Maybe he doesn't even know how to fight." Another chimed in, "He's too scared. Look at him. He's frozen." The words rolled through the gym like poison, infecting the atmosphere with cruelty. Phones zoomed in closer. Students leaned forward. desperate for the moment Tyler would embarrass him. Marcus breathed deeply, his chest rising and falling in a slow rhythm. He wasn't frozen. He wasn't scared. He was choosing silence. Tyler, mistaking that silence for weakness, pressed harder. "What's the matter, janitor? Cat got your tongue? Or maybe that mop handle's the only thing you know how to hold?" Laughter exploded again. Even a couple of parents chuckled nervously, swept up in the mob's energy. Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady, low, but carrying through the gym like a stone dropped in water. "A man who shouts doesn't always have strength. Sometimes he just has noise." The word struck deeper than fists. For a brief moment the laughter faltered. Some frowned, unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. Tyler clenched his jaw. His smirk wavered. He wasn't used to being answered calmly, without fear. "Enough talking," he snapped, jabbing again, this time harder. Marcus shifted his weight, letting the punch graze the air in front of his face. Smooth, controlled, effortless. Gasps echoed. A student muttered, "Wait, that wasn't luck." But Tyler, red with pride, laughed it off. "Fine, you dodged again. But let's see how long you can last." He squared his stance, bouncing on the balls of his feet, ready to make Marcus a spectacle. The crowd was restless now. Some were thrilled, others were uncomfortable. A few of the younger kids clutched their parents' arms, sensing something different. This wasn't just play anymore. Marcus stood tall, breathing slow, hands still at his sides. His silence wasn't weakness. It was patience. The kind of patience that comes from discipline from battles fought long before tonight. He didn't need to answer Tyler's arrogance with anger. He was waiting for the right moment. And in that waiting, in that silence, the gym began to feel something it hadn't before. Respect, mixed with fear. The gym had grown strangely quiet. The laughter was still there, but it was nervous now, scattered, unsure. Marcus's silence wasn't weakness. It was unsettling power. Tyler, breathing heavier from bouncing and jabbing, wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. He sneered, trying to keep control of the crowd. "Don't get too comfortable, janitor. I've been training my whole life. You're just a guy with a mop." The words rang out, but this time they didn't land the same way. The students didn't laugh as loud. Some glanced at Marcus with a different kind of curiosity. From the back corner of the gym, a man shifted in his seat. He was older, with gray streaks in his hair, a veteran of many years around martial arts. His name was Coach Daniels, one of the assistant instructors who mostly watched classes rather than leading them. His eyes narrowed. He had seen something. The way Marcus shifted his weight, the way his eyes scanned Tyler, not nervously but analytically, measuring angles, distances. That wasn't random. That wasn't luck. Daniels whispered to himself, "No, it can't be." The student beside him turned. "What is it, coach?" Daniels didn't answer right away. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, studying every movement. His memory reached back almost 20 years, to a championship in Chicago. A young fighter with lightning reflexes known not for arrogance but for his silence. A fighter who disappeared suddenly, at the peak of his career. Could it be? On the mat, Tyler continued taunting. "Come on, you're not even trying. At least throw a punch so people don't think you're a total coward." Phones kept recording. The chant rose again, weaker this time, but still there. "Hit him! Hit him!" Marcus finally lifted his hands. Slowly. Not like a man rushing into a fight, but like someone placing a sacred object where it belonged. His stance was simple, but it carried weight. Coach Daniels gasped under his breath. "That's it. That's the same stance." The student beside him frowned. "Coach, do you know him?" Daniels nodded slowly, his eyes wide. "If I'm right, that man isn't just a janitor. He used to be Marcus the Hammer Johnson." The name meant nothing to the younger student. But for Daniels, it was a name that once echoed through regional tournaments, whispered with respect. A fighter who won match after match with precision and discipline. A fighter who disappeared without explanation, leaving behind only rumors. As Daniel's words spread quietly from mouth to mouth, the laughter in the crowd softened. Some lowered their phones, their curiosity replacing their mockery. Marcus adjusted his footing again, his eyes fixed on Tyler. Tyler, unaware of the whispers, grinned wide. "Finally, let's see what you've got, Mop Man." The crowd leaned in, torn between doubt and anticipation. Something had shifted. And though Marcus said nothing, the truth was already slipping into the open. This wasn't going to be a joke. This was the return of a fighter the world had forgotten. The air inside the gym felt heavier now. The crowd that once laughed so easily was growing tense. The whispers about Marcus's past spread like fire in dry grass. Some scoffed, refusing to believe, while others looked at him with new eyes. Tyler, still riding the wave of arrogance, didn't notice the shift. To him, Marcus was still just a janitor, still just a joke. "All right, old man," Tyler said, bouncing on his toes, fists raised. "Here we go. Don't blink." The crowd held its breath, phones lifted higher. Tyler lunged forward with speed, a sharp jab aimed at Marcus's chest. He expected Marcus to flinch, to stumble back, to confirm the humiliation everyone was waiting for. But Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't stumble. In one smooth motion, Marcus pivoted his foot, raised his arm, and deflected the jab with effortless precision. The movement was so quick, so natural, that it looked less like defense and more like instinct. The sound of Tyler's glove hitting empty air echoed louder than a punch landing. Gasps filled the gym. "Wait, did you see that?" someone whispered. Tyler's smile faltered for just a split second. He shook his head, forcing a laugh. "Lucky again," he muttered, circling Marcus. "Anybody can get one block." But his voice didn't sound as confident as before. He launched a second attack, faster this time, a combination of punches meant to overwhelm. Left jab, right hook, left cross. His fists blurred. Marcus stepped back once, twice, his body flowing like water, each punch missing by inches. On the third strike, Marcus shifted his weight, and with a sudden snap, his palm tapped Tyler's wrist and redirected it past his body. Tyler stumbled forward, caught off balance. The crowd gasped louder. A few students even clapped instinctively before catching themselves. Marcus didn't attack. He didn't strike. He simply returned to his calm stance, breathing evenly, eyes steady. It was Tyler who looked rattled now. His cheeks flushed red. His smirk twisted into something else. Frustration. "All right," Tyler hissed, his voice low. "You want to play serious? Let's go serious." He adjusted his belt, squared his shoulders, and raised his guard higher. This was no longer a game for him, but the crowd saw what had just happened. The whispers grew louder. Words spread like wildfire. He blocked him twice. That wasn't luck. He knows what he's doing. Coach Daniels leaned forward in his seat, his voice trembling with excitement. "It's him. I know it's him. That's Marcus the Hammer." The gym buzzed with shock. Suddenly, this wasn't about entertainment. This wasn't about humiliation. This was about truth breaking through arrogance. And Tyler, for the first time that night, felt a chill of doubt run down his spine. The gym had shifted. The atmosphere was no longer playful, no longer mocking. The laughter had faded into murmurs, replaced by gasps and wide eyes. The janitor they had underestimated was no longer invisible. He was suddenly the center of gravity in the room. Tyler's jaw tightened. He couldn't let this slip away. His pride, his reputation, even his fragile sense of superiority, they were all on the line. "Enough," he growled, his voice sharper, angrier. "Let's end this." He charged forward, fists flying, unleashing a flurry of combinations he used to dominate tournaments. His speed was undeniable. His power echoed with each strike. The crowd gasped at the storm of punches, certain Marcus couldn't withstand it. But Marcus flowed. Every punch that came, he slipped. Every kick that cut through the air, he sidestepped. His movements weren't wild or desperate. They were precise, economical, beautiful in their simplicity. His body moved like it remembered a rhythm, a dance carved deep into muscle and bone long ago. Tyler's barrage slowed, his breath quickening. His strikes were finding nothing but air. And then it happened. Marcus stepped in. Just once. In a blur, his hand shot forward and stopped an inch from Tyler's chest, not touching, just hovering, perfectly placed. A strike that could have landed. A strike that could have ended it. The crowd erupted, gasps, shouts, clapping. Phones shook as hands trembled to record. Did you see that? He could have dropped him right there. Tyler froze, his chest heaving. For the first time, his confidence cracked. He stumbled back a step, sweat dripping down his forehead, eyes wide. No way, he whispered, shaking his head. No way. Marcus lowered his hand calmly, returning to his stance. His face showed no arrogance, no smugness, only quiet discipline. From the bleachers, Coach Daniels stood, pointing with certainty. That's him. That's Marcus the Hammer Johnson. I saw him fight years ago. That's his technique. Nobody else moves like that. The whispers spread like wildfire, louder now, undeniable. Students turned to each other, parents gasped, some even covered their mouths. The janitor wasn't just a janitor. He was a ghost from the past, a fighter whose legend had almost been forgotten. Tyler's hands trembled as he reset his guard. His smirk was gone, his arrogance stripped. For the first time in his life inside this gym, Tyler Brooks was afraid. Marcus stepped forward, his voice low but firm, heard by everyone. You wanted fun, but a fight isn't fun. A fight is respect. The silence that followed was deafening. And in that silence, the balance of power had shifted completely. The gym was no longer a place of laughter. The phones were still raised, but now their cameras recorded something else. Awe. The mocking smiles had faded. All eyes were locked on Marcus, the man they once ignored. Tyler stood in the center, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. His pride had been bruised, his arrogance shattered. But what broke him more than the near strike was the sound of the whispers spreading through the crowd. That's him. I know that name. Marcus Johnson. They called him the Hammer, right? Coach Daniels stepped forward, his voice stronger this time, no longer whispering. Yes. That's Marcus the Hammer Johnson. I saw him fight in Chicago. He was a champion. Fast, disciplined, unstoppable. And then he vanished. Gasps filled the gym. Students turned to each other, stunned. Parents exchanged looks of disbelief. Marcus lowered his hands, his eyes distant. For the first time that night, his silence broke. His voice was calm, but heavy, like a man carrying years of weight. I walked away, not because I couldn't fight, but because I couldn't live with what fighting cost me. The crowd leaned in. Even Tyler froze, listening despite his pride. Marcus continued, his tone low but steady. Years ago, in the middle of a tournament, I fought a man who pushed me too far. I struck him harder than I should have. I won the match. But he never stood the same again. I saw his wife crying, holding his hand in the hospital. That image never left me. His eyes clouded with memory. So I quit. I put down the gloves. I left the tournaments, the medals, the spotlight. I chose silence. I chose work that no one noticed. Because I couldn't stand the sound of applause when all I remembered was that man's pain. The gym was silent. No one laughed. No one moved. Even the phones lowered slowly, as if recording such a confession felt wrong. Coach Daniels nodded, his voice softer. That's why you disappeared. Marcus's gaze lifted, steady once more. I didn't disappear. I just chose a different fight. Life doesn't stop demanding discipline, whether you're in the ring or pushing a mop. A hush settled over the room. The arrogance of moments ago felt shameful in the air. Tyler swallowed hard, his smirk completely gone. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. For the first time, the students saw not a janitor, but a man who had carried greatness, fallen under its weight, and chosen humility over glory. And that revelation shook the gym more than any punch ever could. The silence after Marcus's revelation hung in the gym like thick smoke. No one dared laugh anymore. No one even whispered. Every eye was fixed on the man they once mocked, the janitor who now stood revealed as a fallen champion. But Tyler's pride refused to die quietly. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, his fists still clenched. His ego burned hotter than reason. "I don't care who you were," Tyler spat, his voice trembling between anger and fear. "This is my gym now, and I won't be humiliated by you." He lunged forward, faster than before, throwing a wild combination of punches, fueled not by discipline but by desperation. His strikes were sloppy, heavy with rage. Marcus didn't rush. He moved with grace, each step precise, each shift in weight efficient. He blocked, sidestepped, redirected. The storm of fists found only empty air. The crowd gasped, some even shouting warnings. "Careful, Tyler. He's reading every move." Tyler grunted, sweat flying as his attacks grew reckless. His pride was unraveling before everyone's eyes. Then came the moment. Tyler swung a powerful right hook, his strongest strike of the night, but Marcus stepped inside the arc, his body close enough to feel the rush of air. With one swift motion, Marcus trapped Tyler's arm and pivoted his hips. In a flash, Tyler was lifted off his feet and slammed onto the mat with a thud that echoed through the gym. The room erupted with gasps and cries. Phones shook as they recorded the shocking sight, the arrogant champion, flat on his back, staring at the ceiling in disbelief. Marcus didn't press the attack. He stepped back, breathing calm, giving Tyler space to rise. But Tyler struggled. His pride, more wounded than his body, pushed him back to his feet. His stance was shaky, his hands trembling. "Again," he demanded, though his voice cracked. "Again." Marcus shook his head. "No, this isn't about me beating you, it's about you learning what respect means." The words cut deeper than the slam. Tyler roared, charging once more. He swung wildly, but Marcus caught his wrist mid-strike, twisted it gently yet firmly, and guided him down to the mat again, this time with control, not force. The crowd fell silent, witnessing not brutality, but mastery. Tyler lay there panting, his eyes wide with something he had never felt before, humility. Marcus released him, stepping back. His voice was steady, commanding the entire room without needing to shout. Strength without respect is weakness. Arrogance blinds. And pride always falls. The words sank deep into every heart present. Some students bowed their heads. Parents exchanged looks of shame for ever having laughed. And Tyler, still on the mat, finally lowered his gaze. His fists unclenched. His voice broke. I'm sorry." The sound of those words was louder than any cheer. The undefeated pride of Tyler Brooks had been defeated, not just by skill, but by truth. The gym was frozen in silence. Tyler Brooks, once untouchable in his arrogance, now sat on the mat, sweat dripping from his face, chest heaving, eyes lowered in shame. The champion had been broken, not by violence, but by humility and truth. Marcus stood tall, his breathing calm, his presence commanding respect without a single boastful word. For the first time that night, everyone truly saw him. Not as a janitor, not as a shadow, but as a man of discipline, strength, and integrity. Coach Daniels stepped forward, his voice steady, filled with awe. "Ladies and gentlemen, remember this moment. You've just witnessed something greater than any medal or trophy. Respect, honor, humility. That's what true martial arts is." The crowd erupted in applause. Not the mocking claps from earlier, but genuine, thunderous applause. Students stood, parents clapped, even the younger children cheered. The sound rolled across the gym like a wave of redemption. Marcus raised his hand gently, asking for silence. His voice carried, calm but firm, like a teacher giving the final lesson of the night. Never judge a man by the work he does. Never assume his worth by the clothes he wears. Respect every person because you never know the battles they've already fought, or the ones they still carry inside. The words sank deep into every heart. Some students lowered their phones, ashamed they had ever tried to record his humiliation. Parents nodded, whispering to their children. And Tyler? Tyler bowed his head. Slowly, with trembling hands, he rose to his knees. His pride was gone, his arrogance dissolved. He looked Marcus in the eyes, and for the first time his voice held sincerity. I was wrong. About you. About everything. I'm sorry. The gym fell silent again. All eyes turned to Marcus. Marcus studied him for a moment, then extended his hand. Tyler hesitated, then with tears welling in his eyes, he took it. Marcus pulled him gently to his feet. The crowd roared in approval, the sound shaking the walls. What began as humiliation had ended in reconciliation. Marcus leaned closer. His words meant only for Tyler, but echoing with meaning for everyone. Strength is not about breaking others down. It's about lifting them up. Tyler nodded, tears slipping down his cheek. For the first time, he understood. The students bowed to Marcus instinctively, some with tears in their eyes. The parents followed, a gesture of respect that came not from tradition, but from the heart. And as Marcus picked up his mop again, ready to return to his work, the entire gym rose to their feet and clapped. Not for the black belt, not for a medal, but for a man who carried humility like armor and proved that respect outshines arrogance. The last sound that night wasn't laughter. It wasn't mockery. It was the sound of justice, the kind that restores dignity, the kind that reminds everyone that true greatness hides in the most humble places. Because arrogance may shout, but in the end, humility always speaks louder. Have you ever seen someone underestimated because of their job, their skin color, or their silence? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Do you believe that respect and justice always find their way? Write below. Never lose hope. Justice may take time, but it always comes.